and welcome to the 24th broadcast of the Nerdflix podcast. We have a great episode ahead of us because today's topic is Coraline. We'll talk a little bit about the book, but we'll talk mostly about the movie. So let's get started. Hey, it's time for Nerdflix!
Welcome to the Nerdflix podcast.
Coraline is a really great film because it starts out as interesting and it doesn't seem that scary until you get farther into it and it becomes a really freaky movie. And I also love it because it is a stop-motion claymation. So it is a really good film. Coraline is about, of course, a girl named Coraline. Coraline, not Caroline. Coraline. And basically she finds this mysterious door in her house. It's very small for some reason. And once she opens it, she goes in and finds this weird alternate reality where it's the same, but it's more fun and interesting. And everyone there has button eyes, and she meets people called her other mother and other father who are really a lot more fun than her original parents. But she soon finds out that the other mother has other plans for Coraline besides just having fun. She's trying to trick her into staying with them so that she can basically eat her because she's some kind of weird monster. And so Coraline basically has to trick her and find a way to escape from this alternate reality. This movie was originally going to be live action, but finally they fought hard enough to make it a claymation, which makes it a lot better, I think. And it would have been incredibly freaky in live action, and since they did want it to be somewhat of a children's film, they went to clay animation, because it would have been really scary in live action. We all know how incredibly hard it is to make a claymation, and they do take a long time, but Coraline took 4 years alone just to do the animation, not to mention the time it took for post-production, pre-production, and the time it took to actually get the rights of Coraline, because Coraline was originally a book. But it took 4 years just to do the animation with clay. This movie is full of lots of fun hints and Easter eggs, as all good movies should have. And one of them is being when they first move into the Pink Palace in Coraline towards the beginning of the film. The movers shut the door to their truck, and on the back you can see written in a graffiti style, "Stop Mo Rules," meaning basically saying that stop motion rules, a hint to all the people who helped do the stop motion for the film. In that same scene, Coraline's mom hands the movers $1, and if you look closely on the dollar is the face of none other than the director of the film himself, Henry Selick. This movie is not a Tim Burton movie. Tim Burton is not in any way involved in Coraline, even though a lot of people seem to believe that. But it does still have references to Tim Burton's work. In a lot of claymation and other films done by Tim Burton, you can see Easter eggs to his signature character, Jack Skellington. Well, even though this movie does not involve Tim Burton, it is still a claymation, so there is a Jack Skellington Easter egg in this movie. At one point when the other mother cracks an egg into a bowl, if you look very, very, very closely, I mean, it's very hard to see, you'd have to pause the video, zoom in, but you can see that the yolk in the egg is Jack Skellington's head. One of the characters in the movie, his name is Wybie, seems to be a very important character in the film, but he was actually not in the book at all. Not in the book. He was added into the movie, and even though he does seem like an important character, he was not in the book. Also, I am currently reading the book. I'm not finished. I'm not even that far into it, but it is a pretty good book, and the film is pretty accurate to it. Another fun Easter egg is when Coraline receives a cake that says "Welcome Home" when she is in the alternate reality. Out the window you see there is a thunderstorm, and there's a quick bolt of lightning, and if you look closely, for just a split second, that bolt of lightning forms a long, spindly, needle-like hand, as a reference to what the other mother becomes towards the end of the film. I've already mentioned how hard it is to do claymation and how long it took them, but they have some really small little details in this claymation which makes it super detailed. such as all of Coraline's sweaters that she wears in the movie are all hand knitted. And Coraline wears a lot of sweaters in the movie. In fact, she wears a sweater for the entire film. But all of the sweaters she wears are hand knitted. And you have to understand how small these little figurines are for stop motion. I mean, they're only about 6 inches tall, so they had to hand knit super tiny sweaters for them. Some other hidden details you probably missed are that when the other father sings that song about Coraline that he wrote, that is actually a warning and a hint to all the stuff that's going to happen to Coraline later on in the film, all the bad stuff. So if you listen closely, you can relate all the things he says to some bad stuff that will happen and is going to happen to Coraline. So it's like a warning to Coraline. And if you don't quite get that, or you'd like to dive further in to what the song means, you can go on YouTube and look up just Coraline's song meaning, and there's all sorts of stuff on what the song means and what he's trying to warn her about. Later on in the movie, we find about other kids who the other mother has tricked, and there are 3 children whose eyes have been taken by the other mother and replaced with buttons, and they're now ghosts. That is part of the plot. Coraline has to find the eyes of those children to free them. But there are hints to these other children being with the other mother throughout the film, such as when Coraline sits down to dinner with her other parents, and you see pictures in the background, silhouettes of 3 children, a reference to those 3 children who were basically eaten by the monster that the other mother secretly is. And now it is time for another segment of product review. I really don't own anything for this movie. I own, of course, the DVD. I have it on a double feature DVD with Coraline and another very good movie called 9. But I do not own really anything, so we'll just dive right into what is available for Coraline. So we'll go straight to Amazon with a general search of Coraline merchandise. You can get the Detroit Zoo snow globe that Coraline's parents are trapped in, but that's about $45. Everything seems to be a little bit more expensive since the movie is older, and there's some really top-notch merchandise. You can get the Coraline doll replica, $35 though. A blanket, a figure. You can get a huge selection of Coraline stickers. They have Funkos for Coraline, but they seem to be going for a lot of money on Amazon, but we'll get into those Funkos' value in a little bit. You can get Coraline Monopoly. I mean, it's $85, but it's still pretty cool. There's a lot available for Coraline. It's just not very low prices. They're kind of more expensive. But there's still a lot available. But yeah, so now we'll move to the line of Coraline Funkos. The one of Coraline as a doll is worth $16. That was going a lot more on Amazon. But according to the Funko app, its actual value is around $16. Coraline with cat is $42. So that is pretty accurate to what Amazon was selling it for. Coraline in raincoat is worth around $21. Pez dispensers are $24. Coraline with hat, which is the chase of what seems to be Coraline with raincoat, and that's around $26. Coraline in pajamas with the cotton candy from the mouse circus scene. It's a New York Comic Con exclusive, and it's worth around $85. So that seems to be the most expensive Coraline figure. The other mother is worth around $31, and Mr. I can't think of his name. It doesn't say, but it's the guy with the mouse circus. He is worth around $12, and he's going for about $40 on Amazon. But according to the Funko app, he is worth around $12. So that is what is out there for Coraline, and that is the end of this segment of product review. Coraline was actually adapted into a musical. I just hope it went better than the Spider-Man musical. Over 500 Scottish Terriers were created just for the theater scene alone. At one point in the movie, Coraline's dad is telling Coraline a bedtime story involving a stuffed octopus. And you can see on his shirt there is some sort of stain, like a ketchup stain. And this is actually part of a deleted scene in the movie. I talked last week about the Goonies, about how there was a reference to an octopus, but there was no octopus because that wasn't a deleted scene. Well, the ketchup stain on the dad's shirt has something to do with the deleted scene. And you never really notice it, but now that you know it's there, you'll definitely notice it when you watch or rewatch the movie. Coraline was actually nominated for Best Animated Feature Film, but that was also the year Up came out and just crushed everyone. So unfortunately for Coraline, Up did take everyone by storm and pass Coraline Up. And now it is time for another segment of Forgotten Facts. This segment comes to us from Nerdflix number 11, Batman. If you've ever seen a Batman movie, read a Batman comic, or even just know who Batman is, you know he has a lot of equipment. He has all the stuff he carries on his utility belt, his suit, his Batmobile, his Batcave, all of that. And it is estimated that to replicate everything that Batman has, to be Batman, it would cost up to $300 million. That is a lot. Also, according to the internet, Batman's favorite food is soup. Now, I mentioned this a little earlier in the podcast. I am reading the book that Coraline is based on under the same name, Coraline. And when I recorded that a little while ago, so I wasn't as far as in the book as I am now. So I haven't finished it yet, but I am close to finishing it. So here's what I have to say about the book. The book is very good, just like the movie. There are some parts that the movie cuts out or changes, but there's also some parts that are exact from the movie. So overall, the movie did a pretty good job, and the book is pretty good. And that is it for this episode of the Nerdflix podcast. I hope you will listen next week when we have a special edition of the Nerdflix podcast. Not to say what it is, but it is going to be a very special and different episode. And until then, thanks so much for listening, and I will see you next time on Nerdflix.
Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Think about going out, Coraline,